Morning Mystery Jeep Shop here, and I'm going to do a follow-up on my Jeep thermostat switch for the radiator fan housing. This is one of the D-Well Amazon ones. I got two of them, and I also bought Cold Case. So Cold Case came in a very similar box, just black, 38 millimeter. And as you can see, it's silk screened Cold Case and 38 millimeter. The D-Well 38 millimeter measured 36, so I bought a 40 millimeter, about two 40 millimeters. And interestingly, I found that the 40 millimeter measures 38 millimeter. And the Cold Case measures 38 millimeter. So, pretty interesting findings there. I'm sorry about the coolant trickle, I'm getting that down. But like I was saying, pretty interesting findings. I mean, these things look identical, aside from the silk screen. Weight, pretty similar. I feel like, and these were considerably more expensive. It wouldn't be too bad if I didn't have to pay 17 bucks shipping for two boxes that weigh less than a pound combined. So that kind of makes this the better deal, aside from the fact that you've got to return the size that you ordered and get a size over. And I'm modifying it anyhow because my SPAL switch is 3/8 NPT. And this is, it's like a quarter NPT. So I'm modifying it anyhow, which I've done on one, and I screwed it up so it was leaking past the threads right there on the bottom. I'll explain what I did shortly. Basically, what the plan is you drill this out, you put the switch in there, it's got a little ground lug. You install it in line with the radiator hose there, so when the thermostat opens, the hot water gets to this. When it gets to 195, it flips the switch and turns the fan on. So I've got the wiring done. This is the trigger, this is the ground, and I did actually leave a bypass toggle switch in there. So if for whatever reason this fails, I can flip that switch on. Or if I just want it to run while I'm idling so it doesn't creep up, I don't know, I could do that. So we're about ready to go. I had this thing installed yesterday, obviously. That's how I found that it was leaking. And my issue was that when I drilled it, I didn't have the proper size drill bit. So I've got it really cranked in there trying to keep it from leaking, which did not help. There we go. That's one thread. That's 2 turns. Yeah, so I've got less than 2 turns in there, but you can see how many threads that is. Should be enough. Come on, focus. Should be enough to not leak. But since I was drilling with an undersized bit, I tried kind of wallowing it around, and I wallowed it too much so that over there at the top, kind of hard to see, but there's really no threads basically over here. And you can see there, once I drilled this open, it was really close to that ground lug, so I drilled and tapped a new ground lug. So I had some work into this and screwed it up. But $9 piece, that's why I bought extras. So I also bought a bigger drill bit, which still is, even though it's a 64th larger than the recommended drill size for 3/8 NPT, these guys are pretty large compared to my 3/8 NPT tap, meaning you have to run the tap a lot deeper to get into these threads than just wherever. So that's what I'm gonna do, is go ahead and take the other D-Well 40 millimeter and get started on the old mini mill. What I do is I take a 1/2 inch 2-flute end mill and plunge it, not centered, but basically I plunge it offset away from this lug a little bit. That way we've got the meat over here for a ground lug. We want to remove from this side, but obviously you don't want to go too far over, because if you leave any of these threads right there, it's just going to leak. So you definitely want to take the threads off of that wall closest to the ground lug. But anyway, it's not like anybody's going to be doing this besides me in the entire world. I just figured I'd kind of show my findings on this stuff and then compare them and maybe walk through my modification to make it work with this, just in case someone does decide they want to do this. All right, let's get started. This is where I'm at. Attempting some soft jaws. If it does scratch it, I don't really care. I've already got the table locked down, and I've got that centered there and there. And if I rotate it this way, you can kind of see where, no, you can't. Okay, I left a little bit of a gap, but with the already taper of the cut there, whenever I step up to the larger 37/64, I think is what it is, it should drill into that anyhow. And that'll leave plenty of meat here for me to tap on the other side there for a ground. So here we go, let's plunge it. Like I said, table is locked. Vise is tight. And from my experience with the other one, this is pretty soft aluminum. Definitely not 6061. Yeah, this thing does that. It stalls. But we broke through. That's pretty much why it stalled. There we go. So I've got a 1/2 inch hole. And let me see with my drill bit. So I'm actually using a 19/32, which is a 64th larger than the 37/64 that is recommended per this tap. Can you read it? Can you read it? Will you focus? 37/64 drill is what it says. This is not a reduced shank. I goofed when I bought it. This is a reduced shank, but since we're having to tap this thing so deep anyhow, you can see kind of where I had to stop about halfway through. The larger size is helping. Since this is a 1/2 inch shank, I might be able to stick it in this collet instead of having the big drill adapter on there. So I'm going to try that real quick, which is going to require both hands. It appears it's going to work. And since I didn't move the table at all, I don't have to do anything except turn it on and then plunge it with this bit. So let's give that a shot. You can kind of see just that little bit of thread right there at the top. And that's going to be gone really soon. Installed. this thing's really annoying. It's usually not this bad. So I'm gonna have to give it a shot at WD, even though the bit's not even cutting enough to be warm. Yes. Got to be kidding me. This thing just has no torque. It's a 3/4 horse motor. Alright, I'm gonna need both hands. Finally made it through it. Yeah, my DeWalt hand drill has more torque than this thing, so I really probably should start thinking about some way to upgrade this. And I don't even know that it's this thing's lack of torque, but just the overcurrent protection in this box is too sensitive. So I don't know. I probably need to just get rid of all of that and improve that, or buy a new mill. I don't know. I've had this thing so long, and it's rare that I really need anything bigger. But anyway, I also think that contributing factor is that this is not 6061. I don't think it's 3003. I don't think it's really any sort of real tempered aluminum. I feel like it's super gummy. Anyway, put the drill chuck in here and took a tap handle, which is pretty hard, and chucked it in there. And I'm using that as a live center into that convenient little pocket. And so now we've got this thing squared. I did not bring a wrench with, so I'll squirt some WD-40 on there, run and grab my wrench, and then start running this down, and I can apply just a little bit of pressure here to kind of help send it down. All right, here I go. All right, we're attempting to tap. I don't have a tap handle big enough for this guy, so I'm just using my 12-inch channel lock adjustable wrench. It's a pretty old one, but it's in good shape. And it gets used a lot. Alright, need to move the leaf blower. Alright, I'm feeling some resistance already. So I just back it off until it frees up and then continue on. At this point, since the thread's already cutting, it's going to pull it down. Don't really need any more downward force, but it doesn't hurt either. I really wish I had a slightly larger drill bit. But I don't, so I'm just going to go until this tap really puts the brakes on it, and then it's just going to be as far as it goes. Then we'll change it over and drill that hole and tap that for the ground lug. You do kind of have to be careful with NPT taps. If the hole is too undersized and you really try to plunge it deep, you can crack your work. This is so soft and gummy, I have very little fear of it cracking. But just figured I would mention that. It's more of a problem with cast. Like if you're trying to do NPT on a transmission case, which is a really popular thing with Turbo 400s. You can very easily crack the case by trying to run an NPT tap into those cooler ports. All right, well, I think you get the gist, so I'll give you a break from this. I'm cutting the threads, and I'm pretty happy with that. Looks good. Nice and clean all the way around. I got pretty good protrusion. I think these are actually deeper than on the other one that I failed on, probably because I was using the 12-inch wrench instead of an 8-inch, so I had a lot more torque. So I'm going to now spin this around, clamp it again, and try to get the hole drilled over here for the ground lug. All right, I broke down and drove clear over to the other side of town to get a 5/8 reduced shank drill bit from Home Depot, because no matter what I tried, every time I felt like I was making progress, whenever I would throw this switch in there, it would get one thread going and then just stop. And so whenever I tried to kind of force it past, it just pulled that top thread out. So 5/8 is the next size up. I'm going to run this through, run the tap through it again, and hopefully that'll be the end of this. This is becoming an all-day project. Here's the finished product. Hopefully the finished product. I've got that threaded in pretty good. So I'm feeling like this isn't going to leak. Got my ground. I did take a file to, so it's in the original spot. I didn't drill and tap it like I did that last one. My plan of cutting this over there as far as I could made it work to where it clears and I can get an Allen key in there just fine. So I just left it. Less work for me. Tightened everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and crank this thing up and let the coolant flow and check for leaks and let it come up to temp and see if this thing kicks on at like 195 degrees. So let me back this out of the garage here and we'll check that out. All right, just sitting here idling, letting it warm up some. The regulator and that's dead, so neither one of those gauges work. So we're watching this. I do have carb cheater going, which looks like, man, I don't know why it's idling so rich and so high. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the hood and mess with that a little bit. And it's even trying to correct it. It's still super rich. So while I'm doing that, this might come up to temp and kick the fan on. Wouldn't that be cool? Fan just kicked on at an indicated, yeah, probably like a 205. Oops. So, hey, it kicks on, and it didn't puke over before it came on, so, alright, that's better. Alright, that's the finished product, right there. It seems to hold the temperature right around 200 degrees, which is cool, and I'm going to leave it the way it is. No leaks or anything, and it runs fine that way. So I'm going to leave it like that for the time being. I think I am going to order a 185 degree switch. They've got those too. I wish these things weren't as expensive as they are. They're like 45 bucks. I bought these because they were on sale on Holley's website and they didn't have the 185s on sale. These were probably on sale because nobody wants their engines running at 200 degrees. But anyway, it works, and I do have the override. So yeah, everything's cool. I have a 160 degree thermostat, so a 200 degree switch is a big spread, but I'm happy with it. And now that I've got that thing modified, it won't be any big deal to just lower the coolant down to the bottom of the tank here and then screw that out and then screw in the 185 whenever I decide to do that. So that's my video for this week. Now going to get started on this jack mount for that taller jack. that I've got back here that I plan to put right there on top of this wheel well. I think it'll work out really well there. And having the weight on this side will kind of help level for the leaf springs, because the gas tank and the driver's butt is always right there. So these 60-year-old springs, you can tell that that side sags a little bit. So adding some weight here is a good thing. And then having a jack to go with my spare is also probably a good thing. All right, thanks everyone. All right, and a quick update on the Jeep switch. I was ordering something from Summit, don't remember what, but I went ahead and looked for a 185-degree switch, and Summit has a convenient little feature on their website where, you know, there's comparable parts. So I bought this Be Cool switch, which is a 185-degree. Looked exactly the same because it is exactly the same. CLR 185 air packs. This is the Spal air packs. CLR 195, both made in Mexico. So neat little hack there. You can get a $29 Be Cool switch instead of spending $45 each on the Spal switches. And the 185, I've already installed it. Works great. Kicks on right at 185 to 190, which is much more reasonable than basically 200 and something. Drove it around yesterday. Fan kicked on. Life is good. So I'm going to be doing another one in the Falcon, but I kind of got into a bunch of other stuff. Maybe I'll make a video about it later, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, this kind of escalated. Alignment problems. But yeah, I'm going to be putting one in here too. I'm going to use one of these cold case adapters. So I have to drill that out, and as you saw in the video, my mill likes to stall. So I ordered an upgrade motor for it, which is in that box over here. So I probably will make a video about upgrading that and then drilling out that cold case adapter and then putting that on the Falcon. Probably won't make a video on all the suspension stuff I'm doing though. So anyway, that is the true end of this deal. So if you've got an old hot rod or an old Jeep and you want an electric fan and you don't want to rely on making sure you're watching the temp gauge and flipping a manual switch, buy that. And if you're buying an Amazon adapter, you probably want to go 2 millimeters over, or just spend the extra money on the cold case. All right, that's it. Oh, and then as for the switch, you have to make sure that you have the relay wired up so that this switch is switching ground and completing the circuit with the ground. So you have your ignition 12 going to the relay. Because if you switched 12 through this, well, then this would be hot and you run the risk of accidentally shorting something. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone.